Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network, and we are back discussing episode 2 of season 3 of The White Lotus on HBO. Episode title is Special Treatments. I'm going to be one of your hosts. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined this time by Liz Seiko.
Hello.
And this time we got Zach Miller.
How's it going?
Whoop.
So, White Lotus, Zach, we didn't get your... And you're going to be on sometimes. You're not going to be on every single week with us. But wanted to ask you kind of your just first impressions on this locale and how they're doing things with Thailand so far, and maybe a standout character to you since we opened up season 3.
This, I feel like with this season they're off to a good start with building up the pressure of what's about to come. They had that first episode with the shooter that you guys were talking about too, so there's that mystery of who's gonna die. It was kind of like season 1 with the casket coming out of the airplane. You don't know what happened. They like to leave those little breadcrumbs of what is about to happen between the lead cast. So I really like that they've created this atmosphere with the characters just immediately being at conflict, and I feel like each of the backgrounds and the individual conflicts are a little bit more interesting than last season's start. I feel like last season it kind of took like halfway to get us very intrigued, and then it had this major bombshell of like the last 2 episodes. So this just feels like it's cooking a little earlier. I really like Walton Goggins Rick a lot. I feel like there's a lot of questions that I have about him. I really like the catty 3 girls, and I keep talking with my girlfriend Faith about that all the time. Like, they're our favorites so far. But they all have great charisma with their relationships and some really out there dynamic, like the whole family and the incest subtleties and the hot comments against brothers, sisters, and what Jason Isaacs is going through with his financial struggles and the press is very interesting. It comes about more in this episode, but yeah, so it's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool that we were talking about this last week, but like every single season obviously deals with a completely different locale, and there's their unique DNA within every White Lotus character where there's still just something really obviously like messed up within them. Like, something is going on with all of them in some which way. But we dive into that a little bit deeper with this episode for sure. And we start to understand a little bit more between all of our characters. We see a little bit more with Rick this week than we did last week, obviously. And I want to start kind of with that because we actually see him having positive interactions with Aimee Lou Wood at times, and there's like an interesting part when they go to dinner with Greg and his model girlfriend. I forget her character's name, but they're sitting there.
Chloe.
What is it?
Chloe.
Yeah. And they're sitting there, and then like Aimee Lou Wood keeps like looking over at him and is like,
she's like,
ooh, drama, like, and you start to see the dynamic of kind of how it's weird, like she kind of does love him. It feels like there are moments where she really wants to better him and just wants him to learn to calm down, but at the same time he's so wrapped up in what he's wrapped up in. What were your thoughts on the way that they kind of started to dive into Rick a little bit more this week, Liz?
Yeah, I would say they're probably the most interesting right now to me, just because in episode 1 they really put Rick in the place of making us think that he potentially is involved in like the shooting that happens. And I don't know why, but this episode really made me think that he could actually be the one that now goes on like a self-changing journey this season instead of getting involved in the drama. Obviously, we still have his like weird obsession and like interest in the owners. So I think that will come into play. But I also really wouldn't be surprised if in some way Chelsea like forces him to really just embrace the like meditation life that comes with being in Thailand, and that his character, they kind of like Mike White kind of goes more into the interest of like a middle-aged man taking his life by the reins and like changing it rather than just being depressed his whole life. I could see them kind of going down that route. Because like that scene was really it was a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say like we dive into we go from a place where like he barely has any dialogue in the first episode really. Like he's so consumed by what his mission is and why he's there to meet up with Sritala's husband at some point. Like we know that he obviously has an interest in him because he keeps asking where he is and he's like listening in on when she's saying he's in Bangkok. He just got released from the hospital. But you get this background on like he's been alone in a sense his whole entire life with one of his parents passes away and the other one was a drug addict, right?
His mom was the drug addict and he never like
met his dad was never in his life. So that scene was interesting. It gives you a little bit more kind of into what he's dealing with.
I think it also makes us feel a little bit more empathetic for him because the first episode, everybody was just like, well, he's the killer. He's going to kill somebody or he's going to be involved in it somehow. So it definitely gave you more empathy. But I will say, since we're talking about them, with the whole clearly something that brought them together by the end of the episode is this robbery that Chelsea witnesses and is a part of. Is there any chance we think that he was like involved in it?
I could see it. I don't know if
he's still like a slimy loser, like looks wise. So I don't know if he's like involved in anything.
Yeah, but that's not like that could just be a kind of a throw. Like that could be Mike White trying to throw everybody off by casting somebody like Walton Goggins because he obviously does have a very unique look and it definitely plays into his role. Zach, did you have anything on the robbery?
Yeah, I feel like he's a very intense presence, like from the beginning. In the first episode, he's even combative to the family on the yacht, which I thought was really interesting to plant that super early. So I think Mike White is kind of throwing us off like a little bit and going with a prime suspect. And he does seem like a prime suspect that would be a shooter in that situation. That's kind of interesting that the robbery, I didn't think about that he could be involved in the robbery. Because to me, he just feels like he is so out of place. Like, I don't think that he belongs with any of these people and their flashy, glamorous lifestyle. He does not scream any of that to me. He doesn't even want to be there mentally or emotionally for Chelsea. So I think that he is there for a bigger purpose, whether that is the resort owner or maybe he actually could have been involved in the robbery to get back at the resort owner or something. But I know that he is out to get some type of revenge or payback against the resort owner because that was the first thing that he asked about when he got there. So yeah, I don't know.
I have a weird feeling that Greg might be involved
in the
robbery or maybe he's the driver of the person that actually goes in and does something. Like that could also be kind of a thing. Then there's also part of me that also thinks about what Guy talk when he's like looking at those security people and how he doesn't trust them. And he's like, why are you talking to those guys? Like there could be something that he knows that we don't know yet as an audience.
Okay.
So I don't lean towards Rick as much in that scenario because I do think it's part of like the allure to be like, yeah, well, this guy looks like a scumbag. So like that's who it's got to be.
I could see it being Greg involved because then like
a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
A little bit of that. Chloe, maybe she's involved in it. His girlfriend, Chloe, she just she comes out and she's like, what happened?
Yeah,
what was that?
That was part of my thinking too. Like when she did come out, I was like, that played weird.
Yeah.
Like
not terrified at all to come out, just like opens the door and is like, what was that?
Yeah.
It's like,
it's a weird vibe.
Weird vibe.
It's definitely a weird vibe. Let's move to the catty females because this is the opening of our episode too.
Opening and closing. They open and end the episode.
What do they end on again?
Just them talking about each other. They're just always
with at that point it's Carrie, Coon, and Leslie.
Yeah, it's reversed.
Yeah. So we see kind of from the other perspective of a scene that we get in the first episode. We get the aftermath of Leslie Bibb's character Kate and Michelle Monaghan's character, who is Jaclyn. And they're having the conversation, and you even see some of it when they're talking, when Kate's like, must be all the drinking, and then Jaclyn's like, I thought you said she looked great. Like they're playing into it so much that it's just you can just feel how it's gonna blow up in everyone's face, and everyone is gonna be so self-indulgent, and it's just gonna be a massacre at the end of it. Like we're gonna see a screaming match, and part of me is like anxious about seeing that happen, but then there's the other side of it where it's like I can't wait to see this all blow up in their face. Do you feel the same way after that conversation?
It's just such brilliant writing because I have witnessed these types of conversations in real life between people of somebody just testing the water of like, I'm gonna say something shady and see if
You want to
Bite
bite.
at it,
wanna
yeah.
like tiptoe with me into that.
Wanna dip
like,
your toe in
water,
the
you wanna
water?
go? And then before it gets like too knee deep in gossiping, it's like, oh well, she's beautiful. Like she's gorgeous. She looks great though.
Yes.
She looks great. But
It must be all the drinking.
but so I just think again, he's just such a great writer of writing these scenes that everybody can witness and everybody's laughing at because they do think of things in their real lives that this situation is happening, even if you're not just like a middle-aged like white woman, you know, people like this. I don't think that they're going to accumulate into some like I actually don't think any of them are going to be involved in like the shooting
No, I
really
don't
at
think
the
so
end.
either.
I think that their friendship is just going to be obliterated by the end of this, and like, or maybe they're just going to accept that they all talk about each other and live with their lives for the rest of it.
Yeah. I think that I said last week that I thought there was a chance that Laurie was going to sleep with Patrick Schwarzenegger's character.
Mhm.
And now I feel it's weird. I feel like I could see a scenario in which any of the three would sleep with his character. Like a part of me is now thinking Kate, which was Leslie Bibb's character. Like, I don't know why I can see that happening. And it was like, maybe part of it is that construct of how they have this scene with the nutritionist and he's like, oh, you look half your age. And then she's like, well, you didn't say that about me.
Yeah.
So she goes down like a spiral where she's just like, oh, I feel terrible for myself. And like, I'm getting attention from this young, handsome, built guy. Like,
she for me is the most insecure out of the three of them.
100%,
yeah.
Even the interaction between her and
oh my God.
Victoria when she goes up to their
It's one of the
table.
most awkward scenes
So
I've ever seen play out.
awkward.
on
It's like what
television ever.
happened at that baby shower that she it was brilliant writing. Zach, what'd you think of that scene?
Yeah. Oh, that was textbook. Like, oh my God, you just felt secondhand embarrassment for Leslie, and I mean, oh my gosh, like she just wanted no part of that conversation. She's like, yeah, I think
It's
we
so
did.
cringe-inducing.
She's just like, get the fuck away from me, and like, I don't want to talk to you. And then even the kid was like, Mom, I think you were rude. Like,
Yeah.
and she's like, we met like a weekend at a baby shower. It's not my problem. We're on vacation. I'm like, this woman is aloof. Like she is in the stars and everything kind of revolves around her. She's never been attentive. That's another thing I want to talk into as well, is she does not give me any inkling that she's been an attentive parent to her kids or the world around her, and she's rich. She has no reason to worry about anything, especially in this given situation. So for her to just be so dismissive is unbelievable. It was just so tense. Yeah.
Part of me feels like we might get some, because we talked about this last week, but like so much of her character, she's definitely the comic relief this season.
100%.
But there's so much reliant on her medication. And I know you said you don't watch the previews for the following,
No, I
for what's
don't.
upcoming. Do you watch the previews?
A little bit.
So this is, I mean, it's going to be in the episode, but
Okay.
she gives her husband a pill
Okay.
to be like, you need to calm down. There's a lot going on here. And I think that maybe part of the relationship between Kate and Victoria was that she was so different before she was taking these pills that we might unravel some of that
Okay.
to see like how she came about being essentially a drug addict, because she is like, she takes them. We see them within every episode, her taking multiple of these sleeping pills a day. And she
Mhm.
says she uses them for her anxiety, and it's like a heavy
Mhm.
like sleeping medication. But I wonder if we're gonna start to and not that like what happened in that 1 week of the baby shower, because isn't Kate the one that was like, we've spent a week together?
It
like-
was, so I find it very interesting, this whole interaction, that people think that Victoria was like the aggressive one in this situation, because I'll be honest, if somebody, they said that the baby shower was 10 years ago for
Yeah.
a weekend. If somebody came up to me and was like, oh my God, I know you from a baby shower 10 years ago. Do you remember me? And like, I truly, like, that's 10 years ago. And you met somebody for one quick weekend and then you never saw them again. Like, there's a genuine chance that she truly doesn't remember her.
Yeah.
I think it's more than that.
But then I think that it says more about Kate needing to be able to be like, do you remember me? Oh my God, I know this person.
That's
a good
That's a
point.
rich
That's a good
family and
point.
I know them and I'm going to prove that I know them in front of my rich friend and my loser of a friend. So I think it's more ego for Kate.
That's a fair point.
Because I truly think nothing would be weird if I knew somebody from 10 years ago and they don't remember me, even though we met for like 2 days.
Yeah,
that's a fair point.
There was like the need to get validated and like, hey, I exist. Like, give me the time of day. When really she didn't owe her anything. It's like, okay, like she was definitely rude about it, but there was that insecurity. She's like, no, like you have to remember me. Like, there's no way. But if I was in Victoria's position, I'd be like, oh yeah, sorry. Like,
she was crazy.
Whatever.
Don't get me wrong.
She was definitely but it's like. Kate should have moved on from that situation. Even when she got the signal, she had to stick there and stick it out. And then they were like, her friends were like, what is wrong with you?
Even she goes back to her friends and she's like, I guess I'm not memorable.
True.
Looks at them for like encouragement. And then her friends are like, no, she's just being weird.
Yeah.
So like
the dynamic is crazy.
I think it says so much more about Kate and how she's going to slowly, because they make it seem that Carrie Coon's character, Laurie, is going to be the one that unravels. I think it could be Kate. I think it's going to be Kate.
I definitely think there's a fair. We also get a really funny, awkward scene with the three women and Christian Friedel's manager character.
Yeah.
Another awkward scene, but we get this information that he obviously has a dream of being an artist and he follows so much in the footsteps of Sri Tala and like loves what she does for the hotel and he like idolizes her in a way and he's like, I do a little bit of writing too, and they're like, you gotta get up there, and he's like, no, and then just like walks away and they're like, what the fuck?
They're like, Jesus.
So I think that's funny. There were a lot of people on Twitter that were just talking about how like much of how crazy it is that he went from like his character in Zone of Interest to like the character he's playing right now is like so insanely different. So I mean, we always get something with one of the managers.
Yep.
Every single season. So going to be interested to see kind of what happens with his character as well. But let's transition to the Ratliffs because they have a lot going on continuously. This is who I said. I mean, obviously it's the most uncomfortable situation and storyline of the whole entire season, but it's revolving around 5 different people. Everybody's doing their own thing, but then there's the obvious weird incestual nature of the children's relationship. And you're starting to see how Lachlan, Sam Nivola's character, is like kind of playing into what Saxon is like embedding on him. Like he's like, oh, you can talk to our sister this way. And like, even in a moment where he's like just trying to be relatable, he's like, you know, like Saxon says you never had sex. Like, have you? And it's like, what an uncomfortable conversation to be having with a sibling. So let's break that down for a second. Either one of you want to dive into that water and just the dynamic between the 3 siblings we get in this. And like I said this last week, Saxon is going to be 100% the character that has some sort of sexual encounter this season because the writing is on the wall.
Or does he never?
Maybe he doesn't ever.
Would be amazing.
Weird, like hyper, like thinks that they're super sexual, but like actually he's repressed in a way.
Ooh, it's possible.
I just think the fact that he said in front of his mother, like it wasn't a good massage because I didn't get a happy ending is so weird. And the fact that, I mean, she's also high on pills, but like she just laughs.
Well, she baits him a lot. Like she does a lot of that. Like even there's something else that's said when they're at dinner that she laughs at.
It was about the server because it was transgender.
Oh, wasn't she? Yes.
And they were like, oh, I think she has nuts or something. It was like a whole thing.
And then she also laughs at that joke. Yeah. So
you're condoning that.
It's a weird relationship, man. Like it's one of the weirder things they've dove into with White Lotus. Then you also obviously have the scene where Lachlan is like staring at his brother from afar in week 1.
Yeah.
Is it a bridge too far for you, Liz? A lot of people are.
I don't know because I don't know
where they're gonna.
I don't know because, like, I don't know if they're just trying to comment on like the whole. I don't know, like sometimes from the South, like they date. I don't know, like that kind of joke of like people from the South dating like their family.
Did you see who Mike White modeled that family after?
No.
The family from a show called Southern Charm. It's a reality television show. I've never seen it. But I don't know if that's like.
Well, not the incest though.
I'm
it's
sure
just
not,
the style.
but I'm
It's
saying
just the style.
Yes.
But I hope he takes it to another level of like complicated relationships and not just like
Complicated sexual
complicated like in I don't know. I hope he like I don't know. If he's gonna go this route, he needs to make it not just like about the sex, but more about like I guess what the parents have done. Like where did this come from? It had to have come from the parents. It has, but right now we don't get any inkling from their parents of any sexual. Like the mom's wearing a full-on nightgown to bed every night, like an 1800s sleeping nightgown. So it's like, where is this coming from? Unless they're all just sexually repressed.
I think that the one son could be gay too, because they're also
Lachlan
playing
or
into
Saxon?
Lachlan.
Okay.
So because I think there's several times he sees his also crazy, but his brother is like fully naked in the room, and he's like almost checking him out, and that could be taken as the incest part. But I also think that there's the stuff with the dad, and the dad is like, oh, you're gonna go to Duke, like you're going there. Like he's very much like, and then he's like, oh, you gotta sit up straight, like you gotta, that's like make sure your back is not crooked, like that kind of thing. So it's clear that the dad is trying to project this righteous image for his kid to be living up to a certain standard. And I think because they've also made so many misogynistic and borderline homophobic comments that they're like, they have an idea of what it should be to like be a man or to be a son in that family. So I think that the kid is like, he is so quiet, and when he has those conversations, he like is very hesitant to do that. So I feel like he could be closeted, and there's some dynamic that he might have with the brother or with someone else to explore that sexuality. But yeah, the family dynamic is crazy. I going back to it, it's crazy that the brother would be like fully naked in a room with his other brother and just like walking to the bathroom naked. Like that would be so uncomfortable for anyone. But
it's very strange. The other thing that I think is really interesting is that we're not getting anything else about Timothy's character except for what his hardship is.
He's gonna go to prison.
He's gonna go to prison, and I think that there has to be more to that. Like we have to see more of just who the character is in a sense, and what he's gone through, and why he made the decision to go through with what he went through. And he's like, for a measly $6 million, like
10 million.
10 million. Yeah. I knew it was a lot, but I remember the exact number. So there's a lot more to be unraveled with him especially, and I think the family in general. Like,
yeah, we haven't really gotten a lot from Sarah Catherine Hook's character, Piper. Like, yes, we know the reason they're there is because she wants to go and study, and she is very interested in like meditation. And I think like she's doing her paper. I
think her
like
character,
there's not much more to her so far.
But what I was gonna say was I actually feel, and maybe I'm the only one that feels this way, but I felt that there was a pure shift in terms of when Saxon was commenting directly on her sexuality and what she's been through. Like the character kind of makes a different turn, and we also get that weird scene where she's being stared at by that guy doing yoga.
Oh yeah, well I think that's just a comment on old men at resorts.
Yeah. But I think that I do agree that we need to kind of there's a lot more to the Ratliff storyline that we need to kind of see unfold and see where we go with that. Ki Hoi Kwan, I don't know if you guys caught up on that, but
I did hear him. Yeah,
the person on the phone call that he's been trying to get in touch with, and he's worried he's going to go to prison. He said he's gonna kill him, and he goes, well, that's fine, I'm gonna go kill myself anyway. Craziness. White Lotus, all wrapped into one. Other things that we get in this episode, we have Mook and Guy Talk and their interaction. Liz's favorite relationship in White Lotus history.
She's like breaking his heart.
Yeah,
that was the saddest date asking out of somebody ever, and just witnessing her being like,
that's very real though. I feel like
maybe really,
yeah.
That was
like it's like stop, like people that are friends for a while. It's like stop, like just stop, like stop being
playing around.
Stop playing around.
Like we've never gone on a date, and then he's like, okay, well tonight, and she's just like, eat your food.
Yeah.
Eat your food. Oh my heart broke. My heart literally shattered.
Poor
for him.
Guy Talk, man. I do think you brought this up last week, Liz and Zach. I'm curious. I'll follow up with you because we actually didn't get your answer on this last week. But I think that he's the one floating in the river.
You think? I
Oh,
said
that
that.
was-
And
that
so
he protects
Liz brought
her.
that up, and I think it's going to be a scenario in which he's protecting. But I also have a theory that might be completely out of the blue, but I think that he is going to be intending on protecting her. He is going to protect her, and at the same time, when he's trying to defend her, the bank robber could be Greg, and Rick could be involved, and Rick could accidentally kill him. I think it could be an accident. It might not be something that's directly murder like we've seen in the last couple of seasons of White Lotus. Like I can see it being an accidental thing. And that's a situation in which I could see like Rick being the murderer.
I could see that.
But I think that he is the body floating. I have a bad feeling about it.
That's where I put my money.
Liz asked me last week, Zach, so
do you have a theory on who the floating body is?
I have a theory. I know you guys are kind of going away from the women being involved, but I also feel like the women might be one of the shooters and the victims, because I think that they're going to embark on a series of more extreme catty events that get back at each other. And Jaclyn is like clearly sought after. Laurie is feeling like kicked to the curb in their relationship and her own private relationship. And she just started to push back against Laurie again. She was like, "Oh, your tests are the same as mine? That's crazy." You know, like there's going to be little breadcrumbs that there is going to be an explosion between them, whether that is the shootout or not. But I think that Laurie could just get drunk again one night and then it escalates, and maybe she like Jaclyn like sleeps with the nutritionist and they were like, "Oh, you should do it, you're the single one." But like Jaclyn could do it to like piss her off and be like, "Oh no, I'm clearly the better one than you." And then Laurie could be drunk, like shoot her, or
Where did
Jaclyn
they get a gun from?
It's true. Yeah.
Where do they get the gun?
Jaclyn's got power. She can get a gun whenever she needs.
Yeah, but like she has power, but like it's more like fame power. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it could be like
I don't know.
accidental. I don't think it
could be
would
right.
necessarily be like, I'm gonna go seek out a gun. It could just be like someone like Guy Talk left it somewhere, or like I think it's just gonna be not like a planned shooting. You know, like I think that's how they let us into it. Like, oh my gosh, there's a shooting on a resort and that kind of thing. But it's, to me, it seems accidental, or like there was not a deeper motive behind it than like something impulsive that happens to a character on character. But
Remind me, because it's been a while, who dies in the first season?
The resort manager.
oh, Murray
Murray
Bartlett.
Bartlett?
Yeah.
I have another theory that I just thought of. I just don't know if it'll pack the same punch necessarily, but it all revolves around what we talked about last week, how there's like the constant through line of Greg and Belinda. And you do see in the preview also for next week that Belinda at least goes up to him.
Well, she saw him today.
She saw him
this
in
episode.
the last episode, and she goes up to him and says, "I think,
Okay.
do I know you?" It could be something else where Greg is going to shoot Belinda and Porn Chai, the resort
masseuse.
Worker, yeah.
that they're clearly
Ooh.
going to have something. But he could be in a scenario in which he is protecting Belinda.
Because her son in the first episode
And then-
is like, my mom's over there.
And there's a thing, like, I don't know if you felt this, I don't think we talked about this last week, but when her son sees the body, he gives a look like he knows who that is. And I don't think he's going to know every single one of these characters directly. So there's a part of me that's like, well, if Belinda and Porn Chai's characters like start to develop a little bit more of a closer relationship, whether that's romantic, whether that's just because he notices that they're flirting and she introduces him, he has a look on his face like, oh my God, I know who that is. And he kind of backs up and he feels a lot more afraid. So part of me is also thinking that. I think that's a possibility as well. Because I mean, Greg's been involved every single time.
Greg's got to get in there somehow.
Yeah.
I did see something absolutely crazy on the internet of a theory, which I don't believe this, but I have to tell it to you guys. Somebody keeps saying, they're like, what's with all the monkey shots?
Oh,
like,
a lot of people are talking about the monkeys.
I saw somebody that was like, theory, a monkey gets their hands on a gun and they are the ones that just are like popping off. And so it's not an actual like person shooting. Like, it's not intended, it's accidental. Could you imagine if that's
I don't know
the
how,
route they go?
I mean, the season
That'd be crazy.
The season of monkeys, right? We got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. We got the Robbie Williams biopic.
I mean, they are
monkey.
showing a lot of inserts.
Monkey Man, the monkey.
There's a lot of inserts though so far in the last 2 episodes of just monkeys.
But I feel like they do that in every season, and it revolves around something that still plays into the theming.
The resort, yeah,
and the resort. Like I don't know, like it was a lot about the architecture and the impact that made on in the Italy season. Like a lot of the architecture that they would show and a lot of the paintings they would show were like sexual in nature, which like
you don't
that
think
was
the
overt.
monkeys are.
I don't think they're on a murdering spree. No, I don't think that's not a theory I would subscribe to. But I do think it's funny as hell that people
We're gonna
are
find it and I'll send it to you guys. There was like a
People on the
thread that
internet.
I saw.
It's like, you remember the way the monkey's looking at this character?
Like they hate that one.
That's so funny. And then maybe the monkeys are doing it to protect Laurie because Laurie has such a keen relationship with that monkey.
She was in all of them
in the first episode.
Guys.
This is fucking crazy.
I would die if this is right. But
I was gonna say something too with like kind of the resort, because the past 2 seasons and this season, like the White Lotus resort to me has just been like the symbol of like lawlessness, where you can just go in and like have your way with people, or it's your escape. So it's based off of your impulsiveness and greed and vanity. It's like this little city of sin for a week or a weekend for people, which is really cool. So whether the monkeys are involved in that or not, I think that I think that's something that's also really cool, which going back to Mook and Guy talk, is their relationship seems the most romantic and humble of anyone else's, like, because everyone else that's like plopped from another country into this resort just seems like they want to just fiery go at somebody impulsively, and like this erotic weekend with someone, and like, oh, they were my fling, or it was hot and heavy, and it's just the way that we were there for a week and we got to have at each other. But with them, because they're also living in Thailand and they work there, they see this stuff all the time. But I think it's just like another subtle message that like they have a good relationship and they don't have nearly as much as those people do, you know. Like I think that relationships with them are based in that banter and like friendship and that kind of thing. So it's a cool like juxtaposition that they do with that, because I was waiting for a moment where it would lead to like a steamy activity or something, or like they would go in like the guard booth or something, and like they would just have a minute with each other and he would like kiss her or something. But it feels like very grounded and unlike the other relationships from the other ones. So but yeah, even the sweetest characters have horrible demises sometimes. So I think it's very possible that he could be a victim in this too.
Yeah, like I don't think they're gonna end up together at all. Like, let's just
it's possible.
I do like them. They're endgame.
Yeah, but I just can't see. I can't see it happening.
We'll see.
The thing is,
never know.
I mean, there's never happiness in the White Lotus.
Maybe they want us to have a romantic ending.
I just think Mike White's not that kind of writer. I don't think he wants that for anybody.
He
did the happiness with School of Rock 20 years ago. He's like, that's the most you're gonna get out of me.
I did actually want to ask you guys one more thing. So the first opening shot of this episode was like from the ocean looking into the resort. Do you think that was a reason, or you think that they just like thought it was a cool shot?
There's probably a reason, but I can't even speculate.
Right? I can't speculate, but I thought it was very odd that were starting out that way. I don't know why.
I think it's kind of like similar to what I was saying. Like you're jumping into this bubble of chaos, like from the outside world, and like the only connection that Tim has to the outside world is his phone and the chaos on the other end of that. So I think it's really just like you're entering into this isolated place every single episode with its own stories. Like nothing outside of these few weeks that they're there matters, except for the bedlam that's about to ensue in that little bubble of an area. And like it's projected maybe as like with the nature and stuff that's happening in it, it's projected as this beautiful serene place, and they advocate for like your nutrition and your massages and your therapy, but really it's all these like boiling pots that are waiting to just spew over like in their own ways, and they bring that chaos with them. So I think it's like this is just a bubble for these people, but they are not built to be there or something. I don't know. So, but like,
We'll see.
I don't know. There's a lot to speculate. We're only 2 episodes in. How many episodes did we get with this show? Do we know?
I want to say 10, but I could be
Might
wrong.
be 8. We're getting 8.
Wow.
So we still got a little while to go. Next week's episode is called The Meaning of Dreams. Ooh, we like that.
Who's gonna be dreaming?
But yeah, let us know in the comments what are some of your guys' thoughts and theories so far through 2 episodes of The White Lotus Season 3. Give this video a like if you guys can, and also subscribe to us here at the Culture Wave Media Network. We're not only covering The White Lotus, we're also currently covering Severance Season 2. We have a review upcoming for The Monkey, which was just in theaters this past weekend. We're going to be covering Mickey 17 soon. Myself and Vinny are going to be covering Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus. So we got a bunch of stuff up for you guys. Plus, we're covering Invincible. We got Oscar reactions coming for you guys. So lots to tune into and check out. Be sure to share this with your friends and family if you guys can. And you can follow us on all our social media. All that stuff is below me in the video, also in our YouTube description as well. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, anywhere you guys can find stuff. We're posting a lot of stuff for you guys. So hopefully you guys are enjoying and sharing with other people. But just signing off, I am Darian Scalamoni.
I am Liz Seiko.
I'm Zach Miller.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.